US and UK internationally. But this third largest country closed its boundaries due to pandemic for about 2 years and only opened them back in November last year. We were all very, very excited when it happened. And from November to March, for which we have the data, more than 15,000 visas have already been issued for Indian students, and more than 25,000 students have already reached the shores of Australia. The recent Australia-India Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement stated that Australia will offer more than 1 lakh, which is 100,000, post-study work visas to Indian students graduating from Australian universities from STEM-based courses. So I think that is, again, a very, very exciting news. I don't want to take away anything from the stellar cast of panelists that we have assembled for you here. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to this stellar cast of panelists who will help you know everything about studying in Australia. So let me start with Ashini. Ashini, would you like to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Pawan. This is Ashini Malutra, and this is my very old photo that you picked up. I've been working with Griffith University as Regional Marketing Director. I started as a marketing officer with Griffith 15 years ago, so this is my 16th year going on. And within this Australian higher education sector, I've completed 21 years. I mainly look after international student recruitment from South Asia and Middle East. We have an India operations office. Basically, we process applications of South Asia, Middle East from India office as well. So by and large, my responsibility includes international student recruitment, partnerships, admissions, compliance, the whole gamut of it. And we've seen the industry changing from we've seen a lot of peaks and troughs is what I would say. And we've been resilient in this higher education sector. So yeah, that's my experience within this industry. Thanks, Bob.
Thank you, Ashini. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. Dr. Alec.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Alec Kraninski. I'm the Associate Director of Client Relations for ETS, and I'm based here in Sydney. So it's wonderful to meet you all. I've been in the international education industry for about 20 years. I was previously the director of the international office at the University of New South Wales in Sydney, and previously with Study Group before that. I have a lifelong learning for education. I've done my doctorate of education, specifically in international student skills development. So I have a lot of passion in this space. So I look forward to hearing your questions and helping you on your journey to Australia. Thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Glad you could make it. We have with us Arana. Arana, if you could kindly introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Yep, my name is Arana, and I'm the Senior Manager for, well, now it's South Asia and Middle East. Maybe a little old, that's fine. It's been 15 years in this international education industry for me as well. I started as an international student in Australia some 15, 16 years back as well. And since then, been working with a couple of other Australian universities as well. With Macquarie, it's been 8 years, fantastic journey, recruiting students from South Asia and Middle East, and also looking after, the partnerships and, a lot of other engagement activities that we have with the region. So glad to speak today.
Thank you so much, Arana. Thank you for being on this webinar. We have with us Roshan Paul. Roshan. Did we lose Roshan here?
I don't see him here, Pawan. He was there before.
Yes, he was.
He was, yeah.
Okay, we'll just move on and when he joins, we can introduce himself. Joseph, you can see if he's waiting in the lobby.
Yeah, I'll do.
Thanks. And we have with us Manji, our youngest panelist.
Hey guys, my name is Manji. I'm an alumni of the University of Sydney. I came here in Australia in 2020, just before the pandemic hit us. I'm currently based in Sydney, and I've been living here for about 3 years now.
Excellent. Thank you, Manjari. And we wanted Manjari to be on the panel so that you can have the questions to alumni who's currently, not alumni, a current student of University of Sydney, someone who's already studying there, and she can answer all the questions that you may have regarding a student life. So this is how we have collated this whole presentation and webinar. We have taken questions from you while you were registering for this webinar, and now I see about 200 people already there in this session. Roshan is here now. Hi, Roshan. Before we move further, if you would like to introduce yourself quickly to everyone. Sorry, we lost you for a bit there.
Pawan, first of all, thank you for having me. Am I audible?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Name is Roshan Paul. My second stint with the Australian Trade and Investment Commission, based in Bangalore, looking after the education practice for South Asia, and with more focus on student recruitment and transnational education. So, post the pandemic, the recovery has been very sharp. The sentiment towards Australian education has never been as strong as it is now. And we are seeing renewed interest, not only to come to our campuses in Australia, but also offshore in India. So thank you for having me here, Pawan.
Thank you, Roshan. Glad you could join us. All right, as I was telling everyone, we have collated your questions, and some of those questions we'll put up to the panelists here, post which you're free to please ask your questions in the Q&A box, which is there. So all participants, if you have questions, please put in the Q&A box and we'll take it after these questions are over. And in the end, we are going to give a quiz for which ETS has kindly given us some sponsorship, and we are going to give you full 3 TOEFL vouchers, 5 Amazon vouchers worth 1,000 rupees, and 7 additional score reports. So thank you, Alec, for the same. Without further ado, let's go for the first questions. And Zarana, if I can have you for the same. Why should students or any international student, especially from India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, from which the audience is here today, it's not only India, should choose Australia as a study abroad destination?
Well, thank you so much for the question. I think maybe the right person to start with this question also, because as I mentioned, I arrived in Australia as an international student as well. So when I was making my decision where to study overseas as an Indian student who just completed graduation and looking for a postgraduate degree, same question was being asked by my family, my parents as well. So I think one thing is important when you're looking at a study destination, not one thing, actually many, but you are coming overseas or you're coming to Australia not just to study or gain a degree, a valuable degree, but you are basically signing up for overall experience as an international student. So what you need to look into is, of course, the value of the degree is the most important thing and what you're going to study at the university, but where are you going? How valuable the education system of that particular country is? What type of lifestyle are you looking at in that particular country? What's the employability opportunities that you'll be getting while you're studying and also after you graduate? So there are many aspects that international students need to look at. And right now, if we speak about Australia, we probably tick all the boxes, if you have to say it that way. So we have wonderful weather, of course, you have to come down to. We can assure you won't die of cold weather for sure. We have amazing people who are ready to welcome you and absorb you into their own culture and make you part of their own culture and community. We have these fantastic universities in Australia who offer you the degree programs which are recognized across the world, fantastic rankings, employability, industry connections, and the rest of the things as well. And also, while you study, you get an opportunity to work part-time as an international student. So currently, Australia has that kind of opportunity where most of our international students are, getting into good casual work while they study. Of course, your first, focus should be studies, and then you can, work part-time if you have some time in between your studies as well. So those opportunities are available. And once you graduate, most of the universities have so good connection with the industry that you place really, really well, in the kind of dream career, if we have to say, to start with. So yeah, that is why I think you should choose Australia as your study destination, because you probably have everything that you would be looking at when you start exploring the options to study overseas.
Thank you, Zarana. I also recently read a news item which said that the Australian government is also kind of collaborating with the universities to have a 2-week program after people graduate. Something I've called an Academia Corporate Connect. Is that true? Is something like that happening?
I think, yep, see, a lot of universities will be having that kind of connect and would be interested in something like that, which we also call it as summer programs or study tours, exchange programs, and the rest as well. So we welcome Indian students and Indian institutes to collaborate with us and, explore those opportunities.
Thanks, Zarana. Roshan, from Australia's point of view, do you think you would like to add anything more to what Zarana already mentioned?
I think what Zarana mentioned, summarizes it well. From a student's perspective, when you look at Australia, the fundamentals are very strong, that you are going into a market which values higher education and which puts a premium in terms of higher education qualifications, and is right up there in terms of the learning outcomes. So the icing on the cake, I would say, is the strength of the Australian economy, which is, having so much of opportunities for students and for working professionals across all sectors. And pre-pandemic, there was a preference towards a few sectors where there were more opportunities. But post-pandemic, I would go to the extent to say that all sectors are crying out for more people. And the fact that you've got a Australian qualification in Australia, the kind of experience that you get on the campus, the kind of exposure that you get on and off campus will hold you in good stead, not only in Australia, but also across the globe. So it's a highly portable qualification where you will do exceedingly well in Australia. But if you decide to move away, you want to go to America, Europe, wherever in the world. And there are lots of examples of professionals coming back to India and doing exceptionally well. So it's really going to be a good choice for those who make it. And the timing is very good at this point of time.
Thank you, Roshan. That's all very helpful. Now, moving on, the next question we got was, what are the popular courses which are chosen by international students in Australia? And Ashwini, if I can get you here, please.
Thanks, Pawan, for the question. The popular degree programs that South Asian students would actually choose to study in Australia. With Griffith University, it has been Bachelor of Business, Bachelors of IT, Bachelors of Computer Science, Masters of Business, Masters of Cybersecurity, Masters of Pharmacy, Bachelor of Nursing. So it has been a mix of IT and business degrees that we've been getting a lot of students. And there's been an increased interest. I think after COVID, it has changed. There's been an increased interest in students to study health degrees, whether it's at undergraduate level or postgraduate level. I think students are now more aware than ever as to what importance a medical degree or a health degree holds in a situation like COVID. So, we've experienced an increased demand in health degrees as well. You are on mute, Pawan.
So, thank you, Ashwini. Also heard that Australia also offers some very I would say in fashion courses, something which is upcoming and trending. I don't know. I heard that there's someone went there and did like sports psychology or something like that, which I've never heard. In their perspective.
Yeah, it is true. A lot of universities do offer very unconventional degrees, like in-trend degrees, design, film and television, sports technology, sports psychology, sports journalism. So these are the current upcoming degrees that you see a lot of students having interest in, and universities have capacity to offer and have been offering. Australia, by and large, sports-related degrees are very popular because Australia has a big sporting culture. So anything to do with sports, whether it starts with sports management or sports psychology or sports engineering, biomedical engineering, they're all available with the universities. It's just a matter of student understanding the importance of these careers, and whether they want to pursue it or not. Universities are putting a lot of effort to emphasize the fact that these degrees have good careers outside as well as within India. You look at India in terms of sporting culture has improved. We look at Commonwealth Games, the amount of medals that India has won is incredible, and the improvement that Indian teams have demonstrated is remarkable. So that culture is changing. Students are asking for newer degrees. They're asking for newer career options as well. Of course, traditional degrees are always favorite, but newer career options are available and are in demand.
Thank you, Ashwini. That's really good to know. Roshan, if I can get you here for this, please. If you can throw some light on value of Australian higher education, especially post-pandemic, because pandemic is kind of, I would say, a watershed moment in the history of our civilization, at least in this century. So how do you see the value of Australian higher education, post this watershed moment?
I think when we look at it from the perspective of an international student, Australia has always valued international students because of the diversity and the quality that they have brought into Australia as a country, and the way that the institutions have benefited with the diversity of talent that they've got. So post-pandemic, I think that has only been accentuated, that Australia has seen a shortfall of students, but also more importantly, skilled migrants for 2 years plus. And that acute shortage is reflecting in all walks of life across all sectors. Your previous question to Ashini, and she rightly pointed out that there are so many new age programs in non-traditional areas. So, students need to look at Australia and think out of the box, that, they've got to think beyond science and technology, and they've got to think beyond healthcare. So, they've got to look at what really interests them, what drives them, because Australia supports all these areas. So if you want to do something in aquaculture, in fisheries, in dairy, in horti, sports, again, even humanities. So there are lots of opportunities in terms of very specialized programs where you can really address niche opportunities both in market in Australia and internationally. So it's a really good time for a student who's really focused on what he or she wants to achieve in life. And I think Australia will help nurture that ambition both academically as well as professionally, in terms of furthering their career opportunities and outcomes as well.
Thank you, Roshan. I also read somewhere, and correct me if I'm wrong, STEM courses, though not the in-trend one, but are the ones which get a lot of post-study work visas. From 2 years, they've gone to 3 years for graduate, and similar for masters. Is the Australian government also thinking of doing the same for this in-trend courses? Sorry, this is probably an impromptu question, just came to my mind.
Was that for me, Pawan?
Yeah, Roshan, if you can take that up, please. Thanks.
So what we know is that definitely STEM, there is a preference. And what we also know, given the closer India-Australia ties, that the government of Australia is considering an additional year for Indian students. But what I would like to say to students across South Asia is that in terms of the support that the Australian government is giving to the sector, and also we've got to give credit to the universities. They have been very innovative in terms of attracting students, providing them with incentives, both financial as well as non-financial, and the support that they're giving students in terms of, helping that entrepreneurial zeal, supporting startups, the incubation centers, and all of that is really taking things to the next level. So yes, the government is thinking of how to make the entire higher education sector more relevant and significant. And I think we've also got to throw light on the fact that earlier post-study work rights and all of that were not available to the vocational sector. But now for a 2-year diploma, you also get post-study work rights. So it's again an important acknowledgement that it's not only in formal university degrees that there is demand. Australia is also seeing a huge demand in the skilled areas and is promoting vocational education in a big way too.
Thanks, Roshan. I think that's the reason why Australia is, one of the top 3 countries internationally, with all of this. But great, thank you for your insight. The next question, if I can get you, Alec, here, for admission purposes for the courses that all Zarana, Ashini, Roshan just mentioned, is there an English language proficiency requirement for admission?
That's a good question, Pawan. So yeah, I mean, all institutions in Australia have minimum English language requirements for admission. However, these requirements will really differ by institution and certainly by program. Some institutions may be in around the 60 range, some 70, some 80, some 90. It really depends on the course type, what you're applying for, if it's at the diploma, the bachelor, the master, or the research level. I'd say most programs in Australia are in the 79 to 92 range as a minimum entry requirement. But it's useful to note that some programs do have minimum requirements, sometimes in writing, a minimum writing score. Institutions will typically give a conditional offer to applicants if they haven't taken a test yet. But obviously you need to take a test to gain full admission and to get your COE, so you could apply for a visa. Ultimately, all institutions publish this information on websites and in their brochures. It's all quite transparent, and it should be quite clear. But if applicants can't find the information, they can certainly contact the institution they're interested in. They'll be very happy to provide that information. Or if applicants were looking to make some comparisons between different types of institutions, certainly their agent can assist as well.
Thanks, Alec. And to be very honest, India is a non-English country, so to speak. We are native speakers of English language. And people who go to Australia, I mean, from India, mostly from North, let's say Punjab, are really scared of English. Is there a way we can bypass this English language proficiency requirement?
The challenge is that even if you could bypass it, you wouldn't be succeeding in Australia, because if you can't communicate, then you can't succeed in the classroom and you can't succeed outside of the classroom. Really, language is a key. Language is a tool, and you need to be able to communicate effectively across all 4 skills, from reading to listening to writing to speaking. Remember that studying overseas could be one of the greatest sort of investments that a student or parents make in their child's future. And you want to make sure that you're choosing both the correct course, but that you're prepared for the program. Otherwise, you could be wasting time and money. So really, having prepared English language before you go, doing online test preparation or going to a program where you can learn and prepare for your test is really, really vital.
Thank you so much, Alec. I think that's really insightful. A lot of people see English language proficiency as a barrier to really go and study abroad, especially Australia and other countries. But what you said is absolutely true. And we miss out the major fact that if you don't understand the language, you really can't enjoy the culture there. You can't really enjoy the education system there and take full benefit. So yes, to all the participants, it really makes sense for you to improve English language, take the test, get good scores, and go to the university of your choice. But once you are there, and that's where I get Manjri here, what is life of a student down under? What's your personal experience? And I'll take the second question later, but you've been there since 2020. So as a
Yeah.
student, you're in Sydney, right? Right now, we're
Yeah,
speaking
yeah,
from
yeah.
Sydney.
I'm in
So,
Sydney. Yeah.
so what's the experience? Was it the same way you imagined before you came to Australia? Was it different? If you can just be
Yeah,
frank
so
and truthful.
that's a great question actually. So before I came to Australia, there was no such thing as COVID. So everything was pretty amazing. And I came here in early 2020. And I think immediately after coming here after 3 weeks, everything was under lockdown, which stayed the
We
same for
won't
next
blame you,
6 months.
Manjari.
But apart from that, it has been pretty amazing actually. Most international students don't have any problems adjusting to Australia. The weather here is amazing. It's not too extreme if we compare it with other countries, especially like with European countries. Australia has great culture as well. It's very relaxed. People are very friendly and approachable. So they are welcoming of foreign citizens. So settling down here as an international student, becomes comparatively easier if we consider all these factors. So yeah, it's been a good ride so far.
Glad you're
And
enjoying
yeah,
it. Yeah, sorry.
yeah. So yeah, about the living cost situation. So the average living cost changes based on multiple factors like transport, grocery, entertainment, and mainly rent. So one of the major factors is location. If you are in big cities like Melbourne or Sydney, then the accommodation prices are high compared to other cities. So if you so the cost of living goes up to around 500 to 600 per week if you are in Sydney, but otherwise it drops about 450 to 500 if you are in other cities like Brisbane or Adelaide. So yeah, as an international student, a pretty big chunk of your income goes in rent.
Wow. Zarana, you were an international student too many years back, right? Has this really escalated the cost that Manjari is speaking about? What did you feel?
See, with the years, when I'm talking about me studying here, it was like 15 years back. Though currently I live in Sydney, I'm not a student anymore, so it's completely different thing altogether. But yes, I would agree with that fact that the metro cities in Australia, like Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane, have slightly higher living cost. But the students or the applicants also have to understand one thing, that these cities have very high employment opportunities as well. Because they have these corporates who are based in the city. They have the multiple companies and startups who are based in this particular city. If I'm talking about Sydney, for example, right now, and the wage, or as a casual worker also, the part-time wage that you get, it is pretty high in these metropolitan cities than any other city or the regional areas. So there's a difference. You are spending higher, but then the opportunities you're getting, the the exposure you are getting, and what you get to earn is also different.
Makes sense. The more you pay, the more you earn. I think that's the mantra. All right, moving on. What are the eligibility requirements for international students to secure an admission? So I think I'll ask this question to Zarana. Why don't I get you back in here?
Well, Pawan, the entry requirements or the eligibility, if we talk about, will vary a lot from each university and course to course, if I have to say that. Like an undergraduate student applying for a postgraduate degree program, we will ask somewhere between 60% to some of the programs go up to 75, 80% marks as well. And if they are looking for an undergrad degree after your 12 in their country, in their home country, then it varies a lot, starting from 60, 65% to probably 100% marks also for some of the medicine programs. So that varies, and they have to look into each and every program very carefully before they do apply for it. Other than the academic entry requirement, we also need English, which Alex has already covered, but English was absolutely essential. They need to have either TOEFL, IELTS, or PT, one of the English score for sure. There's no way out, unfortunately. It has to be, it's mandatory for admission, and it's required for the visas as well. So I mean, based on the program any student is interested in, they need to explore the eligibility criteria on the university's website. There will be course finder, like Macquarie University has a very amazing course finder. You type the degree program like Bachelor's of Medical Science, and you'll be able to see everything about that program in terms of the requirement, the key points of the program, the ranking, graduate employability, academic engagement, everything. So that is how you should start exploring the options, and then start listing down what you're more interested in.
Thanks, Arana. Helpful, very helpful. To the participants, I'm seeing a lot of you raising hands. Sorry, I cannot take the questions now, as I said. If you can kindly put your questions in the Q&A box. We already have a lot of questions coming in. And I know, we have about 200 people seeing this webinar, and this is being telecasted live on Facebook channel of ETS India as well. So keep watching. The next question that we got was about the average tuition fee for a post-grad course, but it would be good to know for the undergrad course also. Ashwini, can I get you in here for your inputs?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, Pawan, like Zarana mentioned about the entry requirements, it aligns with the fee as well. It varies with university to university. On an average, an undergraduate or postgraduate, it will be between 30,000 to 40,000 Australian dollar per annum. So depending on business degrees would be slightly cheaper than the medicine degree. So that's the bracket that most of the undergrad or postgraduate fee will fall into. The tuition fee, which is an annual tuition fee, and it does not include the living expenses. And a lot of people would ask, is it inclusive of living expenses as well? I would just like to clarify, tuition fee means tuition fee. And additional living expenses would be approximately 21 to 22,000 Australian dollar per annum.
Interesting. Thank you, Ashwini. Roshan, if I can get you here for this question, please. So what is a GTE requirement, a genuine temporary entrant requirement? And does this affect the chances of a student securing their visa to study in Australia in any way?
The GTE is fundamentally there to ensure that students who are coming into Australia come in for the right reasons and they are doing things right. So to go to your point on English, it's just essential and there's no way going around it. And I just want to use this forum to discourage students and parents and other stakeholders from trying to circumvent the system, because we are getting constant updates from the Department of Home Affairs that they are finding increasingly cases where English language tests and documents have been doctored, and the visa applications, a lot of fraud is coming through as well. Now, what this leads to and what student community and parents do not realize is that it leads to delays, because once there is a few of these instances, there is increased scrutiny on all documents, which is why you often find that typically when it should just be taking 6 to 8 weeks to get a visa decision, it's now taking slightly longer. Now, to come to your question, Australia has always encouraged quality international students, and that remains still till date the underlying reason that Australia is looking for students who are coming in to become graduates and postgraduates and coming in for the academic reasons. Yes, there are a whole bunch of other incentives and a whole bunch of other reasons that you would want to come to Australia and study, but the underlying reason has to always be to focus on academics. So even, you talked about working part-time. Now, in the current scenario, it is going to be scrutinized in future, but there is unlimited working hours as things stand now. Now, this is something which my colleagues even in the university system are up in arms against, because the basic contention is the kids are here for studies and you're encouraging them to work, whatever be the reason, workforce shortages and all of that. But again, the universities are very clear, even the government is very clear that even though that line exists, that does not give them an excuse, or it does not give them any reason to dilute their focus on studies. So the GTE is a very important element by which the Australian government is looking at who wants to come in to Australia on a student visa, what are their antecedents, and it is constantly under review. So let me say that it's not trying to restrict entry, we're just trying to ensure that those who come into Australia on a student visa are genuinely pursuing learning outcomes and academic outcomes.
Thank you, Roshan. So suppose someone goes and gets the GTE, goes to Australia. Is there a scrutiny afterwards? And could fraud cases be found afterwards, after they've landed in Australia?
That is unheard of. Like it's not a standard practice, but again, what potentially could happen is that if, for example, you used an agent or a partner where subsequently a lot of issues are found, there may be a scrutiny of again your documents, but that's very unlikely. And typically what we have seen is that even if on an omission you got in and you made it to Australia on a student visa, chances are that will not be revoked at a later date. But which is where, again, my honest submission to all students and parents and education partners are that please do not try and circumvent any rules. Don't try and cut any corners. The rules are there for your benefit. And I would like to highlight the fact that Australia is the only country in the world which has a law which protects the rights of international students. So the ESOS Act is a very unique law in the entire world which secures the rights of international students who are non-citizens who are coming into the country with a particular aim and ambition, to get the academic qualifications that they aspire for. So in that letter and in that spirit, I think, even when we look at what are we putting into our visa application, we should be really careful and stick to the facts and try and keep the standards which the institutions and the immigration department is expecting.
Excellent. A very, very important point, Roshan. Thanks for advising the students and parents accordingly. Just for everyone's knowledge, again, towards the end, we have some very exciting prizes sponsored by ETS, which are like full vouchers for TOEFL, Amazon vouchers. So just hang on till the end and you get this 10 minutes quiz that you can participate and win these exciting prizes. Moving on, and great, I think if you're talking about TOEFL, I think, Alec, that is where I would request your inputs here. So how does TOEFL help students get entry to university of their choice? And recently, not for TOEFL, but for alternate tests, we've seen stories from US and UK where people who have scored some higher bands, are not able to speak English per se. And a lot of cases are coming to light, people being sent back and, questions being asked. So two parts to this question. How does TOEFL really help students get entry? And how do you ensure that someone who gets a certain score is someone who deserves that score?
Well, maybe I'll start with that second point. That's test security is extremely important to ETS. So we take the parameters of test security, whether it's at a test center or if it's for students who take the test at home with our home edition tests. We have a variety of different security measures in place, and we are not afraid to cancel scores or withhold scores if we have any doubt that a test taker has, if there's been any misadventure, or if a test taker has potentially done something incorrect. So it's something that not just TOEFL, but other test providers take very seriously. And certainly it's something that we need to ensure that the integrity of our tests remain strong. That's so that we retain the confidence of our institutional partners like Griffith and like Macquarie University, but also in the eyes of the Australian government, because our success is their success. So we take test security very seriously. I think to answer the first part of your question, though, about how does the TOEFL help students gain entry to the university of their choice, I mean, ultimately, TOEFL is widely recognized around the world for the last 50 years. It's been used by millions, and I mean millions of students around the world with over 200 countries to gain entry to their dream university or program in Australia, New Zealand, UK, Ireland, Canada, and the USA. Certainly for Australia-bound applicants from India, Nepal, and across the South Asia region, we've seen TOEFL test volumes double since our borders have reopened. And this correlates with the significant growth in visa applications to Australia over the last month. Australia is booming at the moment. It's a very popular destination, and certainly we're seeing a correlation of that in terms of the increase of interest of students taking an English test, taking a TOEFL test to come to Australia. For Australia, TOEFL is used by a wide range of students seeking entry to pathways, vocational and training programs, as well as university degrees, obviously. TOEFL is recognized by all institutions. It's also recognized by the Australian government for skilled migration and has been for over a decade. We do have a variety of test modes to provide choice for test takers seeking entry to universities, from the traditional test center-based TOEFL IBT to our paper edition TOEFL, as well as the TOEFL Home Edition. So all TOEFL test types are testing the same 4 skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. And these are the fundamental skills students need to succeed inside and outside the classroom.
Thanks. So, this is very helpful. People getting scores by fraudulent means and TOEFL taking this very, very seriously, and so other tests is really good. And thanks for clarifying how students are getting help by taking TOEFL and getting entry into a choice of their institutions. But as a student, Manjari, and this is where I think we would have you here, talk about your experience. Roshan pointed this out recently, that there are a lot of things which are happening, which probably students are enjoying at this point of time, unlimited working hours and things like that. But so I think the first answer to the question is, can you work as a student during your course? Yes, I think it's a clear yes.
Yeah,
right?
of course. Yeah, yeah.
But from your point of view, and I would like you to share a perspective. Do you agree with Roshan that the unlimited working hours should be done away with as a student, or are you really enjoying it? The flexibility to earn more money, and what are the jobs, especially in cities? I think Arana kind of referred to that,
Right.
saying that Sydney and other major cities have a lot of multinationals where you can probably seek work. So what kind of jobs you can apply for? Sorry.
Yeah, so usually student visa holders can work around 20 hours a week, but yeah, as Roshan said, there is no cap on working hours at the moment. This started, I think, after the COVID pandemic, because there was a lot of shortage of employees. My experience with jobs was that the kind of jobs that students end up working for, are mainly physically more exhausting. So those are like retail jobs or in hospitality industry, delivery jobs or cleaning services. And managing jobs along with your studies is a bit of a task, especially when you're living in outside your comfort zone in a separate country. So even when I was working 20 hours a week, I was working in a hospitality industry. I worked in a cafe for about 2 years. I would work for about 20 hours a week, and that would help me pay my rent and take care of my other expenses as well. There was no need for me to work more than 20 hours. And also the university syllabus was so hectic for me that just 20 hours of job was enough for me to take care for the rest of the week. And then I could focus on studies, which is why I came here in the first place. So yeah, I think, I agree with Roshan. Actually, 20 hours a week, and especially in Australia, the minimum wage is pretty high as well. It's around 21, and especially if you're working in hospitality industry or construction industry is a bit more than 21. It's around 25 to 26 an hour, which is not bad, and you can take care of your rent and other expenses with that much money. So 20 hours is good enough, I feel.
Thank you. And then to the second part of the question.
The most common jobs that I see for students are in retail shops, mostly hospitality industry, delivery services, or construction industry. The job market is pretty good at the moment. Lots of places are hiring, and it's supposed to stay like this for at least next couple of months. So yeah, and I think getting a job as an international student is no problem, especially in this situation.
Excellent. So good time for international students to really be in Australia.
Definitely, definitely.
Okay, but I don't think that'd be enough for them to cover their tuition expenses, right, Zarana? So what scholarship opportunities are available for international students? And if you could share from your university perspective, and then I'll probably get Ashini also to weigh in.
So scholarship is a good topic actually to talk about and go endlessly, talking about it. I think a lot of Australian universities offer scholarship, and they can be different. It ranges a lot in terms of the amount that is offered scholarship and the qualifying, the eligibility to qualify for that particular scholarship as well. So again, students will have to, look into which university they're applying for, which course, and the rest of the things. So say, for example, if I talk about Macquarie University, we currently offer $10,000 per year scholarship to South Asian students who want to study the undergrad or postgraduate program. So the eligibility is basically based on the admission requirement for the program that they have applied for. So the admission and scholarship is actually assessed simultaneously. They don't need to apply separately. Having said that, there are some scholarships also offered over and above that, which is more merit-based. So based on the high scores of the students in year 12 or their graduation, those scholarships can be applied for and availed as well. We offer that's really good. I mean, normally South Asian students, come with really good educational background for them to apply for these scholarships, and they stand eligible to get some as well. We have a couple of students who've got like very, very good scholarships studying those unconventional courses, as we were talking about it earlier as well. But yes, every university has very different scholarship to offer, very different eligibility to meet, to qualify for that particular scholarship as well. So I'll let Ashini tell more about the Griffith scholarship.
Thanks, Zarana, for that. I agree with Zarana on the scholarship eligibility criteria. Universities have different criteria to offer international student scholarship. With Griffith, we've got merit-based scholarships, of course, similar to what Macquarie has. Students do not have to apply separately. Their eligibility is assessed when they apply for the degree program. So while we assess their degree application for the degrees, we simultaneously assess it for the scholarship as well. So they get the scholarship offer letter along with their program offer letter. However, there is one merit-based scholarship, additional scholarship that we offer, which is about 50% scholarship. And for that, they have to apply separately. And that's where we encourage students to apply for different programs with additional achievements they've had in addition to their academic excellence. Whatever additional qualifications or achievements they've had in their during their study period is what is highlighted. And there are extensive scholarships with Australian providers these days. Pretty much, I don't know any university which would not be offering scholarship at undergraduate, postgraduate, or at the PhD level.
Thanks, Ashini. And Roshan, if I can get you here as well, from Australia's point of view, do you see any avenues besides the universities offering scholarship for the students to get some other scholarships?
I think for all students and parents, they should just keep looking at the Study Australia website. And, I was surprised myself that when you look at the Study Australia website, it has an India page as well, the India Digital Hub. It's got offers and scholarships from multiple universities at undergrad level, as postgrad level. It gives you details as to, how you could apply for the same, what are the eligibility criteria, what are the cutoff dates, so on and so forth. And also, really importantly, it gives you information on courses available in different universities within a state, which are the universities who are providing a particular course. So a lot of people who go to study to Australia want to stay in a particular state because they've got friends or family there. So it's a really useful tool. it even now has options of transnational education that, can I do a part of that program in my home country? So which are the TNE options or opportunities or partnerships available between Australia and India, where I can probably do a year or two in India and then progress to Australia, depending on my eligibility and my visa status at that point of time. So the Study Australia website, I would definitely recommend. It has updated information with regards to travel, visa requirements, FAQ section. It has a lot of good testimonials and case studies. And there are a whole range of other initiatives which the government has launched in terms of entrepreneurship and, internships, and connecting students with employment and employability options. So it's just a great resource to have. So if you're a student or if you're a parent and you're looking at Australia as a study destination, I would definitely recommend the Study Australia website.
There you heard it, guys. Study Australia. So do check it out, I think, and we'll give you a plethora of information. Thank you, Roshan. Moving on. And Ashwini, can I quickly get your views on this? You've got scholarships, you work part-time, but once you complete your studies, I want to earn too. That's what the post-study work regime is all about. So what are the opportunities that one can expect in Australia, and what kind of salaries? I know it's a broad range, but some kind of information would really be helpful here.
Yes, Pawan. I think I'd go back to what Roshan had mentioned, I think, a few questions ago, wherein after COVID, there are plenty of opportunities. It's not just one area of work, be it healthcare, be it technology, business, design, any area of work, agriculture, fisheries. There are a plethora of opportunities of work these days in Australia. And that's what is good about traveling to Australia and getting a right degree, and then getting experience in the relevant field. So opportunities are plenty, be it regional or be it in the cities. So while Sydney, Melbourne, and Brisbane are big cities, pretty much every other part of Australia is considered as regional, but that doesn't mean that these are villages or these are small counties. There are bigger regional cities like Adelaide, Perth, Gold Coast. There are a lot of opportunities. You can get a very good cup of coffee there and still can have your work and life balance. You can maintain that. And good lifestyle you can live with lots of opportunities. So yeah, so like I would say, there are a lot of good work opportunities, and the median salary that again varies at what is your expertise area of work that you are into. But I would say anywhere between 55 to 80,000 Australian dollars. It varies between, depending on where you are working, what your expertise are. If you are in healthcare, it's healthcare IT will attract a lot more than other areas of work.
Thanks, Ashwini.
Roshan and Zarna could add on.
Yes, I was looking at Roshan and Zarna for the same.
What do I say? And then again, a quick answer to that is, you don't have to take my word for it or Ashini's word or anyone. Just go to seek.com and have a look at what's available across different job roles. And you will find that a lot of job roles are now saying freshers feel free to apply. Because in the Australian employment ecosystem, the job market, the opportunities are through the roof at all levels. So, do not worry that, I'll be coming into the workforce without much of experience. I have done a specialized program, but all of my work experience is in retail or in hospitality, which is not relevant. Your qualification is relevant. And in Australia, everybody knows that it's experiential learning. So even when you are going through a rigorous academic program, there is that industry currency that you gain. There is the industry interface that you have. There's so many projects that you do. There are internships that you go through. So over the 3 or 4 year period that you are in uni, the amount of exposure that you're getting makes you job ready. And again, what you get out of a career is directly proportional to what you are willing to invest. Part of that investment is in your academics, but also the day you start working, you also start learning. So, that I would say in terms of the opportunities, it's all there. How you're going to capitalize on them, how you're going to leverage your skills and your learning, and how fast you will grow is all dependent on the amount of effort that you're going to put in.
Absolutely. Great insight. Thank you, Roshan. There. I'm just rushing through the questions now. We are in the last half hour of our webinar. Alec, you've been in Australia for quite some time now, right? What are your inputs on, what are the top cities in the coastal areas, of Australia, which one should really look at, and especially looking at the study work combination or other things, lifestyle costs,
Sure.
etc. So if you can just
there's so much choice. Australia is a big place. So look, Australia, if we look in the context for Indian and Nepalese students in particular, Australia has a vibrant and growing diaspora from South Asia. We have fantastic Indian and Nepalese restaurants, lots of vegetarian options, diverse cultural events. So students will never feel homesick, go hungry, or be bored. Now, the largest concentrations of Indian, particularly Indian students and graduates and migrants are in Sydney and Melbourne, as those are our two largest cities, but we have a growing community in Southeast Queensland as well. In fact, India is on track to be Australia's largest source of migrants by 2025. So, Australia is welcoming Indians with open arms. Even if you do beat us on the cricket pitch now and then, we are still friends. So for students, some programs in certain regions are more attractive to international students than others because there may be increased opportunities for graduate work opportunities or gain additional points for migration. As Ashini was mentioning, if you're in a regional area or certain cities may be more advantageous for that. So ultimately, some students will be influenced by where their friends or family are, or if they have friends studying here at the moment. If they may be influenced by relatives or family members who've already migrated to Australia. And many students will be influenced by the cost of the program or the living expenses in terms of if they're going to be in a city, a tier 1 city or in a regional area. Ultimately, all students will be focused on choosing the institution that best fits their needs, irrespective if they're in one of our larger cities or in a regional area. So therefore, really applicants should consider what their goals and aspirations are, and they'll find the right institution that matches their needs.
Thank you, Alec. I think that's helpful for students to know and understand. In terms of the accommodations for students, especially in Manjari, I think your insights would be welcome here. What different type of accommodations are available for students and what they could choose from?
Yeah, so there are multiple options available for students to choose from. There are residential colleges, homestay, private rental properties, university on-campus accommodations. Two main factors which influence the accommodation choice is the financial situation of the student and the location where the student wants to settle down. I lived on campus during my uni days. I found an accommodation which was in my budget, and plus because I was on campus, I could save up on transport expenses as well. So there are different factors that come in when we are picking an accommodation. But yeah, you weigh in all your options and you choose which one suits you the best.
What did you choose, if I may ask?
Yeah, I was on campus. I chose on-campus accommodation. I was there for 2 years during my post-grad course. It was the pandemic as well, so anyway we couldn't travel much, so it was the right choice for me. But yeah, there are multiple options to choose from, but
Thanks.
Mainly students go for private rental properties.
Thanks, Manjari. Very helpful to know. In terms of, and this is one question which comes a lot, and I'll probably have one of the university friends here answer that. And Zarana, if you could probably have, your thoughts. So what's the processing time for kind of an Australian visa? I know you're not in the visa department, but from your experience of having so many students come and talk to you, what do you think there is? And in case of a delay, would student be allowed to, kind of start the course from their home country, which is India, Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Sri Lanka?
After the pandemic got over and when the Australian borders were open, I think the Department of Home Affairs has taken up the processing of Australian visas quite seriously. But there is a bit of a lag right now that's happening in terms of, that's the delay of the visa processing happening for the students as well. So I would say currently for session 2, which just got over for most of us, we saw varying timings in terms of the processing of visas. We've seen students who've got getting auto grants, they're getting their visas in like 2 to 3 hours or 1 or 2 days. And we've also seen students who've been waiting for their visas for 1.5 to 2 months. And then they get the outcome of the same. The bottom line is, or my message to the student is that start early. Don't wait till the last moment. If you know that you're applying for Australian visas, make sure that you allow at least 6 to 8 weeks or more time to the Department of Home Affairs to process the visas in terms of the documents check and the rest of the things. So one thing I'm sure the applicants would know that the Department of Home Affairs do very thorough check of documents. It's not very random where we probably just interview the student and decide yes or no. If the officer had coffee in the morning, the grant will be positive and otherwise not. It's not that random. They really go through the documents being submitted by the students, academic documents, English, finances, and a lot of other things like the statement of purpose and the rest. So put in some time to prepare the file in properly in the way Department of Home Affairs is asking for, and then allow sufficient time for them to process the visas. Don't keep it till the last moment is the key message out of this that I'll be giving to the students for sure. Yeah, and in terms of the second part of the question, if delays happening, not all Australian universities, some are allowing them to commence the course online. Like Macquarie University has this option where if the student is still waiting for the visas and the classes have begun, they can study online till they're waiting for their visas to come through and then arrive on campus as soon as they have the positive grant. But as I said, this option probably won't be there with each and every Australian university. So you need to understand, if that option is available to you before you accept your offer letter. And if you think that the visa has been delayed or your agent, your education agent who's helping you with the admission and the visa process, you need to talk to them about the documentation and the visa processing time in detail as well.
Zarana, in this case, is the course fee reduced? And many students also want to know if it's online.
Well, the academics are putting in exactly same amount of time, same hours, to prepare the, work material, the study material. They're putting exactly same, hours to teach the student, even if it's online. So definitely the tuition fee is not going to change, even if they're studying online for some time, and then also think it that way, for example, they're studying for first 2 or 3 weeks online and then they have to arrive on campus. Universities can't be switching between those few weeks and then the rest of the semester. So, if I have to just put it in a different way, I think the answer is that the tuition fee will remain the same.
So, thank you so much for this. And Ashwini, if I can get you here in terms of, we spoke about grad and masters, but what about the PhD opportunities in science and management? And maybe you can take Griffith as an example here. And do you have a fully funded PhD program if someone wants to apply?
Yes, universities do have research institutions and research centers that allows students to apply for PhD programs. Of course, every university has different requirements, but by and large, an honors degree is required to apply for a PhD program in various universities. At Griffith, honors is mandatory with a 6 GPA on a scale of 7. So that's the basic academic requirement. In addition to that, a student should have some publications, 1 or 2 publications is a must. So we do have a lot of research centers and institutions in sciences and management. Like we've got Australian Rivers Institute, which is located at Griffith University. Griffith Criminology Institute deals with criminology and criminal justice. If a student's really interested in criminal psychology, so you can apply for that. You can do a PhD in that area. And then we've got Menzies Health Institution. So across the university, so we've got about 38 research centers under which we offer PhD programs to applicants. And they can, and we've got rolling intakes. We've got 4 intakes in a year. And there are full as well as part scholarship available, and they have to apply as per the deadlines available. So every intake prior to that, we have applications open for scholarship. And alongside with their PhD application, they have to apply for the scholarship applications as well. And of course, and I have to let everyone know that PhD application assessment time is much greater than a normal undergraduate or postgraduate application assessment times. A supervisor is a must. Student needs to contact the supervisor. Once they approve their project proposal, that's when they have to apply on their own. So agent support in this is minimal. It's at only the visa stage they need agency help, but by and large, it's a student's own effort and own connection with academics and the research proposal they have to prepare in order to get admitted into a PhD program. Sometimes students do not have publications. In that case, we do have a graduate diploma of research studies they can apply for. It's more or less like a bridging program for 1 year, wherein they can be on campus, they can talk to the supervisor, they can start their bench research for about 2 trimesters, and then they can apply for a PhD program.
Thank you, Ashwini. That's very helpful. And we have the last question now, at least for this question set that was collated from the participants. And Manjari, can I ask you here? I know we had a great website mentioned by Roshan, Study in Australia, and also seek.com. But are there other useful online resources that come to your mind or which you used as an international student before coming to Australia? And if you could share them with the participants today, please.
Yeah, sure thing. Actually, study in Australia was on the topmost on my list as well. It has been very
Roshan just snatched away your slide there.
No, it's a great website. Actually, it has been very helpful for me when I was navigating through my experience in Australia and tapping in different courses and trying to see which one suits me best. Yeah, this was definitely one of the very helpful websites. There are a couple more, so maybe I can share. Maybe I can post a link on Zoom or something.
You can,
yeah,
if you can
sure.
put it on, maybe if you can put it QA, maybe if you can see that, I guess.
Yeah,
or if
sure.
you through the chat also. Chat.
Sure,
Chat, you can do it, everyone. Just put everyone's.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll do that. No worries.
Good. So as Manjari is putting in those courses, Zarana, you unmuted. So I want to say something here.
Pawan, just one thing. I think Roshan and Alex had kind of covered this earlier, but one very interesting website that students would want to explore is the Skills Commission, nationalskillscommission.com.au, which is the Australian government website where students can also see the type of jobs and the careers available in Australia and the range of pay scale which is offered to those careers at the moment, so that will also give them an idea about what Australia is about and, the opportunities being offered once they graduate.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Zarana. I think that's very helpful. And Manjari is writing that or has written that already. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have added it on the chat group.
Excellent. So let's look at what questions we have got. I know we are running a little bit on time. We have 11 minutes remaining. So we'll just pick up the questions which are really, really relevant. The first one is, so Abhishek Kumar asks, what is the first step to get a scholarship for studying in Australia? Study in Australia website? Is that the answer? Anyone can pick it up.
It's a generic question, and the only way you could respond to that is depending on what the student has done so far, what he or she wants to do in the future, and also what's available in the Australian higher ed ecosystem at that point of time. So, you got to look at the Study Australia website, look at what your options are, and you got to play to your strengths. So that's what I would say, that a scholarship is very subjective, but it really looks at what's beyond your academic credentials and really tries to go a bit deeper. So just don't apply for a scholarship because it's available. You got to really look at whether it matches who you are and what you want to be. So definitely the first step would be looking at what's available and then trying to relate that experience with what you've done so far as a student and what you want to do going forward.
Thank you, Roshan. That's helpful. Abhishek Masi says, I want to study in Australia. Please guide me through. So I think Study in Australia website and all the other websites that were mentioned by Manjari on the chat, please take that into account. This anonymous attendee says, if not TOEFL, can we give an IELTS exam to apply to universities in Australia? Alec?
Certainly. I mean, there are a number of recognized tests for Australia, particularly IELTS, PTE, and TOEFL. All are 4 skills-based tests. So all tests very much the same content. There might be some nuances and slight differences between the order of some of the questions in the tests, but fundamentally, the tests that are recognized by Australian institutions and by the Australian government for skilled migration have all gone through very rigorous research. And certainly TOEFL is the longest standing international language test recognized around the world.
Thank you, Alec. I don't know who should answer this question, but since you studied on University of Sydney, Manji, maybe I'll ask you, how sure can one be to receive a student visa if one applies to University of Sydney?
I can't say about surety of the visa, but I can tell you my experience. It was a pretty simple process for me. The university guided me through the visa process as well. They helped me out a lot. And as soon as I applied for in 2019, and I remember getting my visa in less than 2 days. So it depends. And a couple of my friends, they got it in a couple of hours. Other people took a bit more days for them to get their visas. But yeah, it depends from case to case, I suppose. But as far as I know, the visa process for me was pretty simple and sorted.
Thanks. Roshan, you're unmuted. Do you want to add something on the visa, or am I putting you on a spot here?
It's pretty transparent the way I look at it. The requirements are all there, but you got to stick to what the requirements say. So, do not get swayed by somebody who would say that we'll get you the visa even without this being there. That, to my mind, is a very regressive and a negative approach. Please do not fall for that. Please get all the documents in place. Please stick to the facts. And I would definitely strongly discourage you against putting anything but facts on your visa application, because at the end of the day, you once it's picked up, then there's no second option for you. So and that would be a blot against your name for life. So please stick to facts and please go by the book and then do your research well. There's a wealth of information available online, and do not get swayed by commentary from different sources. Just stick to the facts and figures.
Thanks, Roshan. Thanks for reiterating the message. Another question is GTE a document received on the basis of SOP written by the student?
There isn't a document called GTE. It's just the overall process is what it is, GTE. So it's not like there is a GTE form which you fill. No. The entirety of your student visa application contributes to your GTE. So, I would say it's more of a process which looks at how genuine your antecedents are and how genuine your aspirations are. And it also tries to align what you've done in the past as a student with what you are aiming to do in the future. So that is an important element as well. So, if you're doing the program for right reasons and if it connects well with what you've done in the past and what you intend to do in the future, that kind of meets the requirements. The SOP is very important. Your English language scores, the financials, everything contributes to the GTE. I wouldn't be in a position to say that one thing has a greater weightage than the other, but it's everything in its entirety that contributes to your GTE. But one thing I definitely can say, that even if you have a low weightage on any one of the parameters, please do not do anything fraudulent just to cover that up, because that could mess up with your whole application. So play to your strengths. Yeah, you have certain weaknesses. You got to hope for the best, but do not try to, circumvent or break any rules or do any creativity in terms of your documentation, because that will invariably land you in trouble.
Don't cheat the system, as I say. Thank you, Roshan. And I will not take any further questions. We have 4 minutes left, but before that, the end, I would like to thank all the panelists here. So Zoran and Ashani, thank you so much for representing your respective universities, but giving an unbiased opinion about what college admission, university admission is like in Australia. Roshan, thank you very much for coming in and reiterating the message of people having to stick by the rules, not circumvent the system, not try use foreign means, how important it is for them to be successful there. Great insight. Alec, thank you so much for answering questions on English language proficiency, TOEFL, and also the places which could be of interest for them in the coastal areas. And Manjari, thank you again for giving your insight as an international student for the same. We had more than 150 participants that attended this webinar, and there are a lot of questions that still remain unanswered due to the paucity of time, but that's an assurance that we'll send the answers back to you. Thank you for waiting. And now it's time to win some prizes. So what you're going to do is very simple. You'll get a link that'll be shared in the chat. So don't leave this chat window. I think, Joseph, if you're there, can you kindly put the link in the chat? You'll be able to start the quiz at 3:30 p.m. There will be 10 questions. The timer is 15 minutes, multiple choice. Who presses the buzzer first, faster finger first, as in KBC is something that you have to work on. There's the maximum number of correct answers plus quick turnaround, and you have amazing prizes waiting for you. With that, I wish you all the best. Thank you again, dear panelists. Look forward to meeting you in some other webinar very, very soon. Thank you for your time and patience and energy and making this so much excited for all
everyone.
of us.
Thank
Our
you.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Pawan, for having us.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.